Here you go, bro.
What up? Welcome to another edition of 22MW. My name's Tony. I'm coming to you from EBK Studios, and today I'm joined by Kurtis. Kurtis, it seems like every year there's a great debate that sweeps the nation here in America. In 2006, it was, would you rather be a ninja or a pirate? In 2015, it was, is the dress black and blue or yellow or white and gold? This year, it seems to be gravy or icing. I'd like to get your take on it. Which do you prefer?
What? Okay, I'm not familiar with this debate. Those don't really seem like an either-or type thing.
If you could only have one of the two for the rest of your life, which would it be?
I guess gravy. I never really liked cake because of the icing. You know, when we grew up, I always wanted an ice cream cake because I didn't like those cakes from the store. And then I married a pastry chef who makes really good icing, not that crap they cake on the the Walmart cake. So I actually have come to like cake and icing now, but I went out with it enough. I think I'll stick with gravy. Mashed potatoes just aren't the same without them.
The glaze your wife makes for those donuts is amazing. I don't know if that counts as icing. I guess it does.
That's not the kind of icing she makes for a cake, but yeah, it's definitely an icing, and it's also delicious.
I think I would pick icing just because, like, now that Granny's no longer with us and I can't have her gravy anymore, I know there's different kinds of gravy, but that was always my favorite, was Granny's sausage gravy. But
yeah, it was really good.
The best argument I heard for this of why gravy is better is somebody said you can't put icing on cheese fries. All right, let's get into our top 22. What do you got, Kurtis?
Top 22.
So if you listened last week, I was kind of sick, and that kind of spilled into the week, so I slept a lot. But I kind of got better here in the last day or two, so I don't have a ton. So I'm just going to have to go with wrestling a 4-year-old. We actually, after we watched Zootopia Friday night, we watched a little bit of wrestling, and we wrestle on our bed, and you've seen my bed. It's really high off the ground. So I stand on the floor, and he stands on the bed, and we're kind of like the same height. And then we wrestle on the bed, body slams, suplexes, occasional pile drivers. Have to be careful with those. Technically, they're illegal, but the ref doesn't see it. But we were actually watching, they do the replays on Friday night of Raw and SmackDown. We were watching a little bit of it. He was just captivated by John Cena was out there with AJ Styles. He was just captivated by the microphone.
Oh, he didn't like the promo itself. I was going to say that was a great promo they cut.
Well, I'm saying, no, he was captivated by the way they talked on the mic, even more so than the wrestling. The wrestling, he was like, okay, that's fun, but he was really captivated. So I was trying to teach him how to do it, and he's just really bad at it. So I was like, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. Tonight, when we meet, don't think just because I beat you 452 times, I'm going to take our 453rd time lightly. The pain train's coming. I'm the engineer, the locomotive, and the mustache-twirling villain tying you to the tracks, brother. Woo! And then I gave the microphone to him with, just the hand with the fake microphone, and he went, I'm going to beat you for 50 days, Daddy. And I was like, okay, well, we have some work to do if you're going to be a professional wrestler.
50 days. All right. Now on that 51st day, you're going to beat me. But for 50 days, I got your number, brother. All right. So my top 22 this week is also kind of pitiful, like Kurtis's. We were doing 2 podcasts this week, so I was super busy with that. But so I think I've talked about it a little bit here. In January, I left a job that I was really good at and pretty well respected to go do something I know nothing about and I'm not respected at all at. And what I do is I work on security systems, I work on fire panels, I work on nurse call, some stuff like that. And I was told this whole time that one day you're going to roll trucks, and what that means is you accidentally call the fire department out to where you're working on the fire system. And this week I did it. I rolled trucks for the first time. It's a rite of passage in our company, so there you go. It's super fun to have a bunch of firefighters show up for no reason.
Tax dollars at work.
No doubt about it. All right. So let's get into our Watch It, Rent It, Forget It this week. It's a movie, a stand-up event that's coming to theaters called Kevin Hart, What Now? Kurtis, what did you think about this trailer? Why do you think I picked it to talk about this week? And watch it, rent it, or forget it.
I mean, it's a fine trailer for a movie that's about stand-up, but for me, it's a forget it because I don't like stand-up. I can count the guys I like to watch do stand-up on one hand. It's Patton Oswalt, Louis C.K., and maybe a couple other guys who don't even do it that often, like David Cross. I just not a big stand-up fan. Kevin Hart, I respect the guy. He's worked really hard. He's done a lot to get where he is. Obviously, a lot of people like him. He's done well for himself. I respect the guy. I don't think he's funny. He's not for me. His style of humor of like I'm just a little wild, crazy guy is not really for me. He's not funny. He is. It's just not my style of humor, and I have no interest in seeing this. I have no idea why you picked it.
The reason I picked it, I just thought it was really interesting that it's a. I like this idea of like, let's go to the theater and watch stand-up. Then you're watching it with a lot of people around you. I like that idea. I'm not a Kevin Hart fan. But this trailer doesn't show him telling one joke. He didn't tell any jokes in it.
This doesn't make a lot of faces and talk.
He does the goofy face thing, right? But I don't know. I think it's a really bold choice because, okay, it says to Kevin Hart fans, like, hey, Kevin Hart movies come to theater. But I think most of them would probably know that anyways or gladly go along. But for someone that's not really into Kevin Hart, doesn't have an opinion either way, I think you see this and you go like, oh, so it's just him talking about how big of a tour this is for 90 minutes? Or I don't know. It's super confusing. Again, I like the idea of it, but poor execution. It's also a forget it for me, just based on the fact that I'm not a Kevin Hart fan. If it was like Aziz Ansari, I would go see his stand-up special in theaters. Louis C.K., Norm Macdonald, obviously. I think that would be right up his alley. But all right, let's get into our first movie from 2016. Directed by Jared Bush and Phil Johnston, starring Jennifer Goodwin, Jason Bateman, Idris Elba, Nate Torrance, Bonnie Hunt, Kristen Bell, J.K. Simmons, Octavia Spencer, Tommy Chong, and Shakira are all in there. It's called Zootopia. I gotta say, this is one of my favorite Jason Bateman roles. I thought he was so good in this, and obviously he's doing his Jason Bateman thing, and he's always just kind of Jason Bateman for the most part.
He even said that he asked like, okay, what do you want me to do? And they said, we just want you to be you.
Well, he killed it, and he's one of those people that works for me.
Yeah.
Like, he's good at playing that Jason Bateman role, and especially in this case where he's this devious fox. That's really the only thing I loved about this movie. This movie was just okay. Otherwise, it's got a really kind of convoluted message for me about like stereotypes and how they work in society. I didn't quite kind of get what they were actually trying to say. Like,
I think they were just trying to say, I think this is unlike some other recent Disney movies like Inside Out and Big Hero 6 that I think they're definitely for kids, but I think adults can enjoy it. I think this was more of a kid's movie, and it had a very kids message about don't discriminate. I think if you try to watch this as an adult, you're trying to figure out, like, are they talking about Islamophobia, or are they talking about minorities, or they're talking about feminism? And I don't think they're really talking about any of that. I think they're just saying a couple things here. They're saying don't judge a book by its cover, and sometimes like life is going to make things hard on you and you're going to have to overcome instead of just going and whining about it on Twitter. So I think it's a good message for kids. I don't think it really applies to adults that much. I don't think adults are going to get a lot out of this movie other than it looks good and it has some, fun characters like Jason Bateman in it. But it's compared to some of the more recent movies they've done, it's not near as good.
Yeah, okay, that's a really good point. That makes a lot of sense because for me, like as an adult who understands that like stereotypes aren't bad, the failure to accept that a stereotype might not be correct is bad. Like if you walk around life not referencing things that you've previously encountered in your life, then you're stupid.
I mean, it's just human nature. You can't help it.
Right. Well, and you would be stupid.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this has happened 10 times. It possibly could happen 11. But if it doesn't, and you're like, well, no, it was supposed to, then you're ignorant and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. So this movie didn't work for me other than the Jason Bateman stuff. The rest of it was kind of cute, and I liked the bunny. I read that originally they made the movie and Jason Bateman's character was the main character, and I think I would have liked that movie more because it would have had more of him in it. But Jennifer Goodwin did a good job as that little rabbit, and this was a pretty good movie, just pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, she actually had to overcome the prejudices. She didn't just whine about it on Twitter. So I thought, like...
Yeah, I love that message at the beginning where she's just like, so what? Like, oh, and a bunny's never done it before? Big deal. Like, that I loved.
Yeah.
But by the end, with all the other stuff, I'm confused.
Well, I think one part of the confusion is that the predators are supposed to kind of be an allegory for a minority group, but they clearly have power. Like the mayor is a predator. A lot of the cops are predators. It's even really inferred that the predators have the power because of the way the mayor treats the sheep assistant mayor, the way they treat the bunny. But even though some of the yak, I don't think is a predator. He'd be considered prey, but he's. You kind of get the feeling that even though they're a minority, they have most of the power, even in this utopian society where they're all the same and everyone's equal and all that. So I think that's kind of why it's confusing. Again, I think this is confusing to adults, especially if you keep up with social issues and things like that. If you try to apply this to certain things, I think it kind of falls apart. That's why I'm saying I think this is just a general message to kids. Don't judge a book by its cover. Try to treat everyone with respect, and sometimes there's jerks out there, and you're going to have to overcome them instead of just whining about them. So I think that's a good message for kids. I don't know that it works super great for adults.
Well said. What are you going to rate it?
If you have kids, they're really going to love this movie. I had it constantly spoiled for me. I watched it with my 4-year-old, and he had seen it before, and he just constantly telling me, oh, guess what? The mayor's the bad guy. He's in there. Spoiler alert. So, but I still kind of enjoy this. It's not near as good as some of the more recent Disney movies. Again, Big Hero 6 and Inside Out were so much better than this, but I'm still going to say 4 out of 5. This is quality Disney work, just not their best.
Just okay for me. 3 red bands out of 5. All right, up next from 2015, directed by Charlie Kaufman. And I think this may be the first time I've ever read the entire cast. David Thewlis, Tom Noonan, Jennifer Jason Leigh. There's it. It's called Anomalisa. It's stop motion for the most part. Clearly some of it's CGI, but the most part it is stop motion. And the breakdown's really simple. A man struggles with the inability to connect with other people. And the way they do that is they have one guy do the voice of every person except for the main character and Anomalisa.
And they all have the same face, too.
They all have the same face, yes. And
men, women, children, they all have the same face, the same voice.
And I don't know how quick you're supposed to pick up on it, but it took me a little while.
It took me a little while, too, and I felt kind of dumb about it once I realized it.
Right, because at one point his kid comes to the phone, and his kid doesn't sound like, they lead you to believe it's going to be like a little kid, and he doesn't talk like a little kid, and I'm like, what?
I think I had figured it out before then. Right then, I had figured it out kind of when the bellhop left the room, and then he called him, and I was like, okay, now I get it. They're all the same voice and the same face. Because they have different hair. It's not like they all look identical. It's just the same face with different hair. So there's a reason it takes you a minute to get it.
Yeah.
Also, they're puppets that all look like they're wearing glasses, but they're not.
Yeah, they were made with 3D printers, and you can kind of see where they piece them together. But the things they do in this movie are pretty amazing. Some of it's completely unnecessary and weird and seems creepy to me. But like they do rain and they do sex and they do all this stuff in stop motion. And it's neat to look at. It is kind of neat to look at. But for me, the story was kind of boring. What about you, Kurtis?
I had 2 notes, and one of them was about the voice And then I realized like the female characters had this weird male sounding voice, so that I was like, oh, okay, never mind.
Well,
Scratch
I
that
thought
note
he
out.
I thought he was gay at first when they like show the flashback to the what's her chick Bella.
Yeah.
I thought that it was a dude, and I'm like, oh, okay, so he's gay, but he wasn't
Okay,
gay.
I picked up that it was a woman. Anyway, so that note didn't really matter. So my only other note was this movie was probably for someone, but it wasn't for me. It's getting really hard for me lately because I'm trying to teach my son like not to whine about stuff. He'll come to me. I may have mentioned this before, but he'll come to me and like, oh, I want to wear Batman underwear today, and I'm like, well, the Batman underwear's dirty. You have to wear the Superman movie. Oh, that's not fair. Or Superman underwear. Sorry. And that just drives me nuts because he has it so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to apply that to my own life and not complain so much. And look, I'm the last person to tell someone not to complain or, I mean, I just did a huge rant on airports a few weeks ago. I get it. We get angry. But I'm really trying hard to just like realize like, hey, I got it pretty good. Stop whining. And movies like this about this guy has a good job. He's got a wife. He's got a son. He gets to travel a little bit. Just shut up. Oh, everyone looks the same and I'm having a midlife crisis. Boo hoo. You have a job. You have a roof over your head. Shut up. I know that's going to make it harder to watch movies.
Yeah,
a lot of movies. A movie we're going to talk about next week has not quite the same feel, but a little bit of the same feel to me.
All the movies we're going to talk about next week are perfect. Anyway.
Look, there's nothing here. There's no, like, huge conflict here. It's just this guy's, like, a little disenchanted with life, and I'm just like, shut up. You have it good. This movie not made for me, for sure. It is impressive what they did with the stop motion. I didn't need to see the naked man puppet 15 times. They really like to show you his puppet penis a lot in this movie. Didn't really need to see it.
Yeah, I'm glad for Zootopia this week. It's the only movie where we didn't have to see a penis.
I mean, there was a nudist colony in there,
That's
but they
true.
were cartoon nudity, which, no genitals.
But they seemed like they got really judgmental during that. Like, that's, again, why the movie was kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it was. I get that. But, like, I didn't get this movie. I didn't really get what it was about. I didn't understand. Okay, he found someone a little bit different, but they make a point of telling you she isn't different. She's exactly the same as everyone else. And then you find out, yeah, she is, and she turns into the same dude. Spoiler alert. So I didn't get this. I know it had a purpose. Charlie Kaufman, I haven't seen a lot of the movies he's written, but I think they're all kind of weird for the sake of weird. Right? Isn't that kind of his thing? Like Being John Malkovich and some of those other movies he's written. And it's like, hey, these movies are just kind of weird for the sake of being weird. And if you want to see something different, that's fine. But I didn't get this movie. It didn't speak to me. Didn't need all the puppet penis. I would not recommend it unless you've seen some of his other movies. Or if you're just like 45 and have a nice house and a nice car and a nice family and you're really hating it, it's just too much to bear that your life is so great, then maybe this movie will speak to you, but it didn't speak to me.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. Your mindset obviously has made this even worse for you, but again, I could appreciate kind of the visuals of it for a little bit, but I did get super bored with it. 2 Fast Times out of 5.
This is almost a 1, but just because of what they did with the puppets, I'll say 2. I mean, if you want to see something visually impressive, puppet penis aside, this does look very impressive. But I think you could watch like a 90-second clip of it and get the gist of it and not have to sit through the movie. So 2 out of 5.
All right, up next from 2016, directed by Akiva Schaffer, starring Andy Samberg, Jorma Takun, Akiva Schaffer, Sarah Silverman, Tim Meadows, Maya Rudolph, Joan Cusack, Questlove, Carrie Underwood, Nas, 50 Cent, Usher, Ringo Starr, Simon Cowell, Akon, Mariah Carey, Adam Levine, Pink, Kevin Nealon, Mario Lopez, Will Arnett, Chelsea Peretti, Eric Andre, Bill Hader, RZA, I already said Tim Meadows, but I'm going to say him again, Pharrell, Seal, Paul Scheer, Jimmy Fallon, Will Forte, Martin Sheen, Snoop Dogg, Weird Al, and Michael Bolton, among many, many others. It's called PopStar, Never Stop, Never Stopping. I like The Lonely Island. I think they only have 2 albums out. I own both of them because I like that first album. I think it's called Incredibad. I thought it was, or maybe that's their, I don't know, whatever. Their first album, the one that has like Space Olympics and We Love Sports, like I just thought that album was really smart, really funny, and so I was kind of excited about this movie, but this movie felt like behind the times. It felt dated. The jokes felt old.
Oh God, yes.
I laughed more every movie than I did this one, I think, that we reviewed this week. This movie I laughed a few times. There was a guy in my theater that loved when Lawrence got crapped on by the bird. Like, he laughed every time they did that. But that's just kind of like when you're resorting to bird crap jokes, like, you're desperate. That's a great sign of you're desperate to make people laugh. And, so here's the other thing is a movie like this, for me, needs to end on a really good pop song. And, like, they build like they're writing one, and it actually sounds pretty good. And then when they go to perform it, it's something totally different and not good. And they rehash Michael Bolton. They bring Michael Bolton in for another song, which felt even more weird. It's like, if you were going to rehash something, why not rehash like one of your songs from your first album that's really good, as opposed to this just completely mediocre song?
That was just it was a parody of that Insane Clown Posse song from like 8 years ago that SNL already did a parody of.
Okay,
it's not even topical. It was a parody of that Miracle song by Magnets. How do they work?
Don't know it. Don't know the song.
It's this song where the Insane Clown Posse just talks about like just stuff like magnets and just normal things, and they call them miracles. And it's like a very anti-science song. In fact, they say, I don't want to be talking to a scientist. MFers lying and making me pissed. And it's just like that. All this stuff is miracles. And that's what this song, they just named stuff. And that's what this song was doing. It was just naming stuff. And it even said miracles like 3 or 4 times in the song. It was clearly a parody of a song that was a joke like 7 years ago.
But wasn't it like oddly similar to the song Lawrence had put out about the stuff in his Jeep too? Like that they had panned and said was like terrible. But again, they're in that barn writing a song that actually
sounds a little catchy.
Right, exactly. And it's a kind of a funny premise. And, it's a girl, like, she says she's sick. And, which is it? Is she sick or does she hate me or whatever, And it just, I don't know why they didn't go that route. This movie was just odd. Another thing, Sarah Silverman, like, man, she has aged terribly. Like, wow, she looks...
I think she aged really well for a while, and it caught up to her.
Well,
it's like that Asian woman thing, like an Asian woman doesn't age until she's like 65, and then she instantly is 82 overnight.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Because, like, in the last couple of years, you'll hear about Sarah Silverman coming out and talking about how, I just agree with like kids that go to college. They always seem to be right. And she's just saying stupid stuff like that. Like, oh, okay, I get it now. She's Famke Janssen. She's Rose McGowan. She's just her shtick of like, hey, I'm a comedian that says I'm a lady and I say super dirty things. Like, yeah, it's gotten old. So now she has to resort to stuff like this, and she just wasn't good in it. Tim Meadows for me is like, I don't know why I can't stand him, but he's just not funny to me. I don't think I've ever laughed at anything Tim Meadows has done. I know he played Hootie in the or he played Darius Rucker on SNL once. I don't know if I hold resentment against him for that, but he just isn't good, and I don't know why he must be a really nice guy, right?
Seems nice.
Yeah, it must be really nice because he's always in movies and stuff, and just I don't know. This movie just felt super dated. It felt if this came out in 2008, maybe it would have been something, but nothing here for me.
I don't have a ton to add because we're in 100% agreement. Super dated. If you're gonna do old jokes, you got to do them really well. One of the I think the first SNL short they did was that Lazy Sunday, which was white guys rapping about nerdy stuff. that had been done to death, but they came out and they like did it better than ever, or they did a really good job of it. So it was okay that we've seen white guys rap about nerd stuff, ha ha ha. But they did an awesome job of it.
Yeah.
This, they took jokes that already been done and didn't do them any better, and in most cases did them worse. The songs were terrible, which I get. You know, we get 3 or 4 songs from his album which are supposed to be terrible, but then the last song is terrible too.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It needs, like, Get Him to the Greek. Like, they have a lot of terrible songs in that movie, but the song at the end, I think it's called Bangers and Mash. Like, it's a pretty good pop song. Like, it kind of works.
Also, though, I think these guys are good enough that they could have like done songs that were terrible, but maybe didn't sound so bad. Like maybe just these are talented guys. They've written a lot of very catchy songs with funny premises. I was surprised to see this was up around 75-76% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is just not good. It's not funny. The music is not good. The jokes are awful. This was a huge disappointment for me. I saw the tomato score and was like, okay, I think this might be pretty good. Maybe gonna do something a little new with this mockumentary genre, and did none of that.
Nothing. Nope. Nothing. I'm gonna give it 1 Space Olympics out of 5.
Yeah, it's not worth seeing. It's really bad. Like I'm shocked at how bad it is. I think the one time I laughed, I felt bad, and that was when he took a dump in Anne Frank's bathroom. I don't know why I found that funny, and then after I laughed at it, I felt bad about laughing about it. So
I laughed a few times, but I can't even remember what I laughed at.
It wasn't funny. And again, you're also right. Andy Samberg's like the only person in this movie who can act, and he's not even that great an actor. I mean, he's okay. He's serviceable, but Sarah Silverman's terrible. The other 2 guys in Lonely Island aren't good actors. It's just really bad. 1 out of 5.
All right, so I wanted to do a little Ask Steve. We haven't done one of these in a while, and we're definitely late to the dance and talking about this, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on Brie Larson possibly being cast as Captain Marvel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I'm all for it. She was so good in Room, and I just watched Trainwreck the other day, and she was really good in that, where she was playing someone who I think is clear, like she was like 25 when she filmed that movie, and she's clearly playing someone who's probably a little bit older than that. So I don't think she clearly has no problems pulling off maturity and strength and things like that, even for someone who I think she's 26 now. So I think it's a great choice. Marvel has pretty much universally nailed their casting. I saw like some people are concerned about the age, but who cares? Like, I mean, it's not like they're going to make one movie. They may want to make movies for 10 years with her. So she doesn't have to be whatever. I'm not super familiar with Captain Marvel. So
apparently she's a colonel in the military, and so who cares? Make her a lieutenant.
At one point, at one point she was a lieutenant or a captain, I'm sure. And again, Brie Larson can play older. She can play mature. She can play straight. She showed in Room she can play pretty much whatever you need her to. She was best actress, and it was well earned. So
this is one of those that shows exactly how good Marvel is at casting, because I never would have thought about this. It just wouldn't have been on my list of names, and then when you hear it, I go, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And
same for me.
I mean, like, I think she'll need to hit the gym a little bit, but I don't think that's like out of the realm of possibility here. I think she would be perfectly willing to do that, and maybe I don't know. I think it's a really good casting. Potential casting hasn't been made official yet, but I think it's cool.
Me too. I'm all for it.
All right, what do we got coming up next week, Kurtis?
So next week we're going to go back and look at some movies from another previous episode that I'll maybe Tony will talk about next week. I'm not sure. Independence Day, Inception, Goonies, and for some reason Dan in real life is in there with those movies. That's kind of the twister of the group, but maybe we'll talk more about that next week.
All right, until then, gotta go, son.
Pay attention.